Hi, Charles of the Book Sage here, and this is my October 2017 wrap-up video. October was a month of readathons for me. I took part in 4 different readathons to one degree or another. There was the month-long Victober, from Books and Things. It's all Victorian reads. The month-long ITober from Paperback Junkie, where he was reading it throughout the month of October for the first time. The Cozyathon, created and hosted by Sylvia Kay, that took place over the first half of October. And then Spookathon, which was created and hosted by Books and Lala, and I'm just, the other 2 hosts are slipping my mind at the moment, but I'll link all these Cozyathons and things down below, and all these readathons down below. And I really had a good time with them. For Cozyathon, I did not do a TBR video. I did a wrap-up video because it was more about activities to do while reading and not so much picking these kinds of books to read. So the books I was reading for October were the books I read for Cozyathon. So there's no TBR for it, but I did a wrap-up video where I go over my experiences, my thoughts of Cozyathon itself, what challenges I was able to do, didn't do. There's even a little vlog of me reading by candlelight near the end of it. So you can watch that. I'll link that down below, up here. And then, of course, Spookathon was 1 week long. It started the day after Cozyathon ended. And that had specific challenges. And I had 4 books on my Spookathon list, and 3 of those I completed that week. And now I will pretty much go into the books that I actually did read in October. I started off the month finishing up book 7 of Kate Elliott's Crown of Stars series with the eponymously named Crown of Stars. Most of this I read in September. I actually read books 5, 6, and most of 7 in September. And this one, the last, I think, 200 pages I finished up on October 4th, my sister's birthday, just like an hour or 2 before she arrived for a few days. Otherwise, I would have not been able to finish it until after her and my goddaughter Natasha had left. So, absolutely enjoyed this series. I really do need to make a video about my thoughts on this entire series. 2 of the books were 5-star reads for me. This last book was one of those 2 5-star reads. But this is a series I'd started a long time ago and then finally got back to and started back from the beginning, and then finally now read all 7 books. And really, really enjoyed it. Kate Elliott, I like her as an author. She's a really good author. Next up, I read, this is part of Spookathon, I read the Stephen King's Carrie, his first novel. And I will link to my Spookathon, my TBR, and my Spookathon Wrap Up. In my Wrap Up video for Spookathon, I go into more detail on my thoughts on Carrie and the next book I'm going to show you. I really enjoyed this. It's his first book. You can see him developing his writing style. He took what would basically be a straightforward, simple book, but the way he crafts and tells the story makes it far more interesting. You see the early signs of what he put to great, great effect in it here, in how he tells the story. And I quite enjoyed this. I think I gave this a 4-star. And next up, also for Spookathon, was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And this was just really such a delight. I really, really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars for me. This is pretty much Neil Gaiman's version of The Jungle Book. The Jungle Book is one of his favorite books as a kid. And this is his kind of take on The Jungle Book, where instead of a boy growing up in the jungle, he's growing up in a graveyard being raised by ghosts. Silas, his sort of guardian in a way and teacher, is my favorite character in this book. Beautiful illustrated edition as well. Lots of great illustrations all throughout the book. And again, more of my thoughts on that in that Spookathon Wrap Up video. But glad to finally read that. And then next up, for Spookathon as well, I started reading this originally, I believe, in September. This was a challenge to myself I've had this book for many, many years. The movie always terrifies me as a kid growing up. It's, to me, still the scariest movie that I've ever seen. And I've been wanting to read this book. So I started it in September, and then as soon as I saw Spookathon was going to be a thing, I put it aside and then read most of it for Spookathon. And this was absolutely brilliant. 5 stars. Absolutely loved this book. I can see why it was as popular as it was, as popular as it is, why it was made into a movie. I do have to read his next book in the series. I think he's got a couple more books, actually, that continue the story. I know they made, not Exorcist 2, that was Hollywood garbage, just trying to make money off of this. But Exorcist 3 was actually the sequel that he wrote to The Exorcist, that I think centers around the detective in here, who's one of the supporting cast in this book. And I really do have to find that and get my hands on that and read it, because this I thoroughly enjoyed. And happy to finally conquered my fear of this story and read this book. And then next up is I have to run to the bookcase and get the book, because I thought I got it and brought it over here before I started filming this video, but I didn't. So quick cut to me having the book. Okay, I'm back. The next up was a fantasy medley. This is a book of 4 short stories from 4 female fantasy authors, edited by a female editor. And this is a special Subterranean Press edition, which is signed by all 4 authors and the editor. And it's a story from Robin Hobb, Kelly Armstrong, C.E. Murphy, and Kate Elliott. And this is my first read of anything for Robin Hobb, Kelly Armstrong, and C.E. Murphy. Kate Elliott, as I mentioned, I was reading The Crown of Stars. I've had this book for a while, but hadn't read any of the stories yet, because the Kate Elliott short story actually takes place in the Crown of Stars world after the series is over. And so throughout the months, I read these 4 stories. And Robin Hobb's story, Words Like Coin, set in her Farseer series, was a read I did specifically for Cozyathon. It was a read by candlelight challenge, and I read that short story for Cozyathon. I really enjoyed these. I enjoyed these enough to want to go and pick up some books by these other 3 authors that I've never read anything of before. And I guess that's sort of the point of books like this, a collection of short stories where it's introducing you to authors that you haven't read yet. So, and I like the edition too. It's nice, pretty cool. But anyway, really enjoyed these stories. And next up was, this one is on ebook. And this was my second Victober read. And I realized on my Kindle, one of the first books that I purchased was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I read that. I've never actually read it. I loved the movies, Alistair Sim version, of course. And I finally read the story. And it's a quick, again, novella, but just, again, wonderfully, wonderfully written. Dickens is just a master at writing. And you could see his imagination at work here. And he would have been just a great science fiction fantasy writer, because you really get a bit of a vibe of that in this story. And happy to finally read it. I'm probably going to read it again around Christmas time. I enjoyed it that much. Those are the books that I finished reading for the month of October. And now I guess I'll touch on the books that I'm still reading, that I started in October, haven't finished yet. The first one of those is really a November read for me. I only read the first couple of chapters in October, just as kind of a hat tip to Victober. And that's A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I realized when I read A Christmas Carol that I had this in a box upstairs. I saw it when I was looking for something else, not too long ago. It's an old 1960 copy. So I grabbed this. I read the first chapter or 2 and then put it aside just to start it in Victober. but my main plan was for this to be a November read. So I'm going to be reading this in November, but I did at least start it in October. And the big read throughout the month of October is Stephen King's It. This is a reread for me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Paperback Junkie read it for the first time. He broke it out through the whole month to read it. I made it to page 886 before the month ended, I think. Spookathon derailed me keeping on schedule here. So I've got 200 pages to go, which I'll knock out at some point this month. I just need to, that's an afternoon of just picking this up and sitting down and just getting through those last 200 pages. This is one of my favorite Stephen King books. Thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a 5-star read for me, without a doubt. One of his best. And I'm really enjoying the reread. It's been a while since I read it that first time, and so much of it, the details I didn't remember. So it's been really fun rereading this, but I do have to finish it. I really want to get to the end of this. And the other one that I started reading in Spookathon is Nnedi Okorafor's Who Fears Death, which I'll put here. And this one, I didn't finish it in October by choice because I'm really enjoying it. I'm taking my time with it. I don't want the story to end, but I am about to hit that final section of the book. And I know once I open it back up again, I'm going to read through to the end. So I'm just been holding off because I don't want to leave this story. It's harsh and brutal, but wonderful and magical. And I'll probably end up doing a review video of the book. It's worthy of having its own review video for me. And I think, well, no, technically there are a couple of other books. I started rereading Off the Face in the Frost by John Bellairs, which is just one of my all-time favorite books. He's a children's fantasy author, but this was his adult fantasy book. Could be read by kids anyway. But just a wonderful, whimsical story of Prospero the wizard and his adventure trying to uncover this mystery of magic that's going on. That's pretty dark and scary, but really good. If you have not read this, it's a quick little read. I actually do have to finish my rereading. Again, this is just going to be a couple hours sitting down and just knocking the rest of the book out. And separate from that, I have some other books that I, for some reason, don't really talk about on BookTube. And I don't know why, because they're books that I only read pretty much at night when I'm in bed on my Kindle when I want to do a little reading before I go to sleep. I have separate books that I just pretty much read at that point. And I don't know why. I should include them. They're books I read throughout the month. And this particular month, I'm reading Deadly Curiosities by Gail Z. Martin. It's an urban fantasy story set in, I believe, Charleston, South Carolina, with a woman whose family has owned this sort of pawn shop that doubles as a store that takes magical items off the street and strips them of their supernatural elements to protect society. And this is the first of 2 books in the series. So I've been reading that slowly each night throughout the month of October as part of my late in-bed read. And there's another series, it's called Air, which is book 2 of this Akasha series, I think by Tara Harmony. And this is it's another urban fantasy read. And it is the second book about this sort of group that it has to do with the earth and elements. The first book, I think, was water. This is air. It gets into nature and its power, and there's magic in this as well. And this secret society that they're part of, and they're battling this other person who left them and is trying to create his own secret society to challenge them. It's an interesting read. I'm enjoying it. Urban fantasy seems to be turning into my in bed on my Kindle late night read before sleep kind of stories. But I really should start including them in my TBRs and my wrap-ups, because I am reading them. One thing in October that I started at the very end of October, the last Sunday of October, and that is my 52-week-long Harry Potter reread series. So I've read the first 5 chapters of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I'm going to be doing a weekly vlog. It's going to be a 52 vlog series of my year-long reread of Harry Potter. Tomorrow, I'm filming this on a Saturday. Tomorrow is book chapter 6 through 9. And I'm already enjoying coming back into the series. This is my first time rereading it, so I would have been remiss if I forgot to point this out, that I started this here at the end of October. And this is going to be part of my reading every month for the next 12 months, ending up in late October of 2018, when I finally finished book 7 again. And that's a wrap this time. October was a pretty busy, hectic month for me. I thought I finished more books than I did, but as you see, I think I've finished reading 6, and I've got like 7 or 8 more that I'm currently still reading. So lots of reading in October. I loved the all the readathons I took part in. Cozyathon was probably my highlight readathon-wise. I just really enjoyed that one. Thank you to Sylvia. And out of all the books that I completed reading this month, if I have to say which one do I put at the top of the list, if I was to say, okay, if you were only going to read one of these books, which one would it be? And for me, my book of the month for October is The Exorcist. This is absolutely brilliant. So very well done. Blatty is such a really good writer. I love the way he describes things and sucks you right into the story. And that is my October 2017 wrap-up video. So I will see you in November throughout the month with all my different videos that I'll be putting out. I'll see you with my November wrap-up video sometime in early December. Please like and subscribe. And again, I will, here on the side is the links to all those TBR and wrap-up videos that I mentioned in the video here. Feel free to click on any of those and watch them if you haven't. And I'm gonna just call it a night and say thank you very much. I'm Charles of Sir Booksage. Happy reading.